Hello again, everybody. Welcome to March Madness, Dallas Cowboys Overtime Edition. I am Fort Worth Star-Telegram columnist Mac Engel, once again joined by my good friend Mr. Clarence E. Hill Jr. Want to thank the great people at Window Nation for sponsoring this and every other episode of Cowboys Overtime. Clarence, I see you're wearing burnt orange today. Coincidence?
Clearly a coincidence. It had nothing to do with Texas defeating Kansas for twice in the same week to win the Big 12 championship.
That's true.
That at all.
There's nothing. It's total coincidence. Got it. Totally got it. Okay. Well, I don't know what we call this, Clarence, because the NFL, it's not called free agency, but it's called legal tampering. But it's not free agency, but it is free agency.
It's funny because today is supposed to be the first day at 11 a.m. You can start talking to other players from other teams. But yet 5 minutes into this so-called legal tampering, nothing can be official until Wednesday. But 5 minutes into you can do the legal tampering, deals are done. I mean, how can they make the contact and get these deals negotiated and done within 5 minutes? You think there was some tampering before?
I don't know. Maybe it's the fact that, cell phones, maybe they were DMing right away and they got the contracts done. I mean, it's amazing what technology can do. Artificial intelligence, I don't think we can rule that out. But clearly,
what they were doing was they were talking going back to the combine. They've been talking ever since.
All right. I think Clarence had probably predated the combine, but let's just assume that it started there. But NFL free agency has essentially begun. The Dallas Cowboys are fast and furious all over free agent moves by doing nothing. The Cowboys could sign free agents, but we like our guys. The Cowboys like our team, and the same team that lost in the divisional round got its butt kicked by the 49ers, but we like our team, and they're going to move forward by apparently not signing anybody. They've already lost offensive lineman Connor McGovern. He got a nice fat contract.
Did he?
It wasn't cheap. You know what I mean? For a guy that nobody liked, he got a lot. I put it to you this way, Clarence. I wish nobody liked me in that way. The kind of money that he got.
It's funny, but this money just not what it looks like on paper. He got 3 years, $23 million, which is probably really a 2-year deal. And maybe some of that $23 million is backloaded. We got to see what the real numbers are.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the NFL, all the money is tied up in the guaranteed, basically the signing bonus. And I hadn't seen that signing bonus yet. And that's the real money. The rest is just on a screen. Let me make one quick announcement on this. Jason Hargrave, the defensive lineman, has signed with the 49ers because what that defense needs is another really good down lineman. So that's terrifying. Bobby Wagner has talked to the Cowboys reportedly. Maybe, I don't know. He's the free agent from the Rams who had been in Seattle during the most of Dan Quinn's tenure as the defensive coordinator there. But there's a name out there. You tweeted it out after the Ravens announced they have basically said goodbye to longtime veteran defensive lineman Calais Campbell. Clarence, great player in Jacksonville, good player in Baltimore. Cowboys always need more defensive linemen. Is there any chance they go after him?
Yeah, I don't know because, and I was going to get over to say, last year the Cowboys was the last team to sign an outside free agent. The last team in the NFL to sign a guy that not on their roster. So, they are similarly in the same mode. They got that Brandon Carr disease. They have not signed a big money free agent since Brandon Carr. Great guy. They gave him 5 years, $50 million. Never made a Pro Bowl, never did anything in Kansas City, but they decided here's going to be our great next corner. They gave him all this money, didn't live up to that. And the Cowboys have not really been major players in free agency since Brandon Carr, I think going back to 2012. And so we're here in 2023. And so the Cowboys like to go bargain shopping. The things they say we like to sign on guys, but not even signing on guys. I mean, they did put Tony Pollard on the franchise tag, but everybody else they let get to free agency. And certainly we already saw that Connor McGovern's gone. There's a good chance that Leighton Vander Esch could go and
Donovan Wilson.
Could be walking out the door for big money. My thing is this. The goal in the offseason is to improve your team, right? Mm-hmm. The 49ers are improving their team. They were already better than the Cowboys last year, one game away from the Super Bowl last year. They made moves to improve their team. What have the Cowboys done to improve their team? Are they going to do anything to improve their team?
Okay, we said almost the exact same thing last year. I think we might have even said it the year before, but they were coming off of a 6-win season, so that was a little bit different. But the point is, Clarence, we've said these same words in the offseason where the Cowboys elect not to go after a free agent because of what you're talking about, Brandon Carr disease. And I got to tell you, I realize I'm a homer for Brandon Carr. He's a great guy. Brandon Carr really wasn't that bad. He was reliable. He was a pro. He was a veteran. I know they restructured his contract midway through this deal. He played for a long time in the NFL. He was a good player. The problem was they wanted him to be something that he wasn't. And that's where you get mixed up in free agency. It's like, well, we gave him all this money. Well, that's great. You just made him really rich. You didn't make him necessarily something that he isn't as a player. And Brandon Carr was a good player. And as Stephen Jones has noted many times, if you go into free agency and really have to fill a need, you're overspending because you missed someplace along the line in your evaluation of young players. That's fine. But my frustration is that they're not doing it at all. And you talked about other teams are going out, and you've got to do some of this. And I know what the Rams did a couple of years ago was really rare. But look what the Eagles did last year. You've got to be creative and not just throw a white flag up at free agency and say, well, gee whiz, it's too expensive. This is the price of playing. This is the price of playing poker. The Cowboys are just terrified of this imaginary cap that you reference, and they don't do anything. And, now, and this leads us into our second topic, Clarence. Jerry Jones all but says, well, the reason we're not doing this is because we're paying the quarterback $45 million a year. Is it? Do you really buy as this plays out, especially with other teams whose contracts are on the second contract, the big contract? Do we really want to blame Dak Prescott's contract, not the player, but the contract, for the reason why they're not going out and getting guys, whether it's on offense or defense?
No, I think it's patently false, and it's unfair to Dak and unfair to the situation because, as I said before, the Cowboys have not been major players of free agency since 2012. That's predates Dak by 4 years since he got here. And I know that I've done the numbers. I looked at the numbers. When Dak was a rookie in 2016, the Cowboys did nothing in free agency to add to that team. After the great year in 2016, going to 2017, they were 13-3. They did nothing to improve that team, knowing full well in 2017 that Zeke was going to miss some games with a suspension. They did nothing to improve the team. After 2017, they got rid of Dez Bryant. They went with a wide receiver by committee. They got lesser talent. Did nothing to add to that team, premium players to take it to the next level. All while Dak was on a rookie deal. They talk about you got to strike when the quarterback's on a rookie deal. Well, Dak was on a rookie deal from 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019. The Cowboys did nothing to marginally improve the team, improve the talent base. Then they paid Dak. And now we're saying that's why they're not improving in free agents. That's why they're not adding guys. Well, they didn't do it before. Now they got Dak. He does have low cap figures. They've lowered his cap figures for them to make moves. They still haven't done it. It's not about Dak. It's their philosophy.
Well, Clarence, when you're talking about 2016 Dak's rookie deal, go back to when Romo was the quarterback and he was playing on a heavy contract. And they blamed it then. Right? They blamed the Romo deal. Well, you can't go get guys because you're giving number 9 all this money. And I remember, I think it was 2014, Clarence, their big offseason addition was Rolando McClain. And Rowe had one really good year with the team that lost the Dez Bryant catch game. But other than that, and Rowe was damaged goods. He was, low risk, high reward kind of player. And they got a good year out of him, and then he broke down, and then he's out of football. But I can't think of anybody else that they really went out and got who was, he at least was a major league talent. He had off-field issues. Right. Yeah, I can't even think of guys who went out and got who were just talented.
Or they would take chances on guys who had issues that could get on the cheap, like Greg Hardy and Rolando McClain. They would take chances on guys because they could get them on the cheap because they had off-the-field issues. But clearly those offensive issues, those things, while they never really panned out here as well. But they never really invested in free agency. And that's been a problem, and it's still a problem. And again, you look at this team, other teams are getting better. The Cowboys have so far done nothing to get better. They said, we're going to use the draft. Well, the Eagles got way more draft picks than the Cowboys. Everybody's using the draft to get better. What else can you do to supplement your team? And you use that quote by Stephen Jones saying, if you have to go get a major player free agency, you had a hole in your draft process. I disagree with that.
That's what he said.
I know it's what he said.
Okay.
But I'm just saying, because you can't get everything in the
no
draft.
Way. That's 7 guys, and that's assuming you hit on all 7, which you
but I'm saying you can't get top end talent at every position through the draft. So you look at what the Miami Dolphins have done. They already got a Pro Bowl corner, All Pro corner. They went and traded for another All Pro corner. They got 2 top corners there. You cannot get that in the draft. What teams are playing with, what you have to play with to get some, top echelon talent. You have to supplement what you do in the draft and add some guys, sometimes not just bargain basement guys, but premium guys. And that doesn't mean you left a hole. That means that you're trying to improve this team, take it to the next level.
Well, and not only that, sometimes there are departures that you couldn't foresee because a guy retires. You think about it, they had the center position solved for a long time. And then Travis Frederick comes down with a very unique disease, plays 1 more year on it. Then he decides, I have to retire. Well, if that happens to somebody else, I mean, that's nobody's fault. That's just bad luck. That's just life. That's just football. And this idea that you're not going to fill that with a good player. You did nothing wrong with your evaluation. You did nothing. No one did anything wrong. And it happened. And you're still adhering to that philosophy. I get the philosophy, but I don't agree with it across the board for all the reasons that you just said. I do want to go into one more topic before we take a break here on Cowboys Overtime, because you touched on it before we came in. If the Green Bay Packers do trade Aaron Rodgers to the New York Jets, which it sounds like he's either going to be traded to the Jets or he's going to retire, he's going to be out of the NFC. So if you look at the NFC, Clarence, and I'm not talking necessarily contracts, I'm talking in terms of overall ability, where does Dak Prescott rank with these other names? And these are teams that have guys that you think that they're probably going to go with in 2023. I'm talking Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, Kyler Murray, Derek Carr just came over from the Raiders to the Saints. Those are the best ones. Geno Smith is in there. He's a great comeback story. I don't think anybody would say Geno's better than Dak. But Clarence, when I go over those names, those are the best quarterbacks in the NFC. Jalen Hurts, Daniel Jones, Kirk Cousins, Jared Goff, Matt Stafford, and Kyler Murray. Kyler's coming off of an ACL that he suffered late. Where do you think Dak fits in that discussion?
Well, Dak is 1 or 2, and it depends on. I
think you're right.
Because Jalen Hurts, I guess, by all, this recency bias is 1. And Dak should be 2. Based on that. But, do
you think he's ahead of Stafford? Do you think he's ahead of Matt Stafford?
I think he is, yeah. It's Dak. It's just right there. I think he is. Matt Stafford had one good, he had a decent year in Green Bay. Not Green Bay, but
the Rams.
With the Rams and certainly got the Super Bowl, but just put everybody's careers together, and I think Dak is right there or above him. And the same thing with Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts had 1 great year. I think that we'll find out about who Jalen Hurts is this year, but again, and that's my issue with what Dak has shown he can't win it all. Brock Purdy was 1 game away from the Super Bowl. Jalen Hurts got to the Super Bowl. If those guys get the Super Bowl with their teams, they didn't lead their team. They got there with their team. Why can't Dak get to the Super Bowl if you put the guys around him? That's basically this whole notion that he's shown he can't get you there. Based on what?
Let me ask you this. Would you rather have him than Kyler Murray?
Yes, of course.
Same here.
Most definitely, just because from a leadership standpoint.
Hands down. Maturity, leadership, all that. And I think Kyler's really good. Terrific athlete, and he's a good player, but I'm with you on the rest. You'd rather have him than Jared Goff. You'd rather have him than Geno Smith, right? I'd definitely rather have him than Kirk Cousins. Daniel Jones, yes. The thing about Jalen Hurts showed so much last season. I thought he was going to be the second coming of Colt McCoy, a guy who was in the NFL forever, but and pretty good, and maybe just not an elite level starter. He was damn good last year. I may flip flop on that one, but you bring up a good point, recency bias. But other than that, I can't find anybody else. Dak's better than all those guys. He just is.
Yeah, I mean, and again, the thing with Jalen Hurts, I love the season he had. He had a great running game. He had 2 top-notch receivers, first-round picks at receiver, a top-notch tight end with the best offensive line last year in the NFC, especially when they had Lane Johnson. You go combine that with the type of talent they had on that defense. He had a better team around him. There were more talent around him than what Dak was playing with last year.
No doubt.
So I think that's part of why he had success.
All right. We got more to talk about here on this episode of Dallas Cowboys Overtime on StarTelegram.com. But first, we're going to take a break to listen to the good words from the great people at Window Nation.
Window Nation, the star of window replacement and proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys, can help you fill the house this season with savings. Buy 2 windows, get 2 free, and make no payments and pay no interest until 2025. Fill your house for a customized authentic Dallas Cowboys jersey while supplies last. You could even help fill the Cowboys house and win tickets to a game. Visit windownation.com/Cowboys now for details. Call 866-95-NATION. Window Nation, proud partner of the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, back here on Cowboys Overtime, here on StarTelegram.com. Thank you very much, Window Nation. I am Mac Engel, the Footwear Star Telegram. It's Clarence Chill Hill, Bevo for short. Clarence, we talked a lot about the beginning of offseason free agency in the NFL, but there are 2 specific names out there that are of considerable interest to Dallas Cowboy fans. The first one did a whole long dog and pony show courtship late last season because he was going to sign with the team. I'm talking, of course, about former Rams and New York Giants wide receiver Odell Beckham. Now, Jerry Jones has talked to you about it, said, oh, yeah, there's interest there. But between the combination of Odell Beckham Jr. and now potentially Arizona Cardinals wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins, do you think the Cowboys should be or are they in play for either Beckham Jr. or DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, one thing is certain. They need to add help and receiver. They need to add juice to this offense. Stephen Jones talked about it. They don't want us go on the record and say they regret letting Amari Cooper go because they would never do that. But, yes, they need to add juice to this offense. They need to add a veteran receiver to the offense. You know, they tried to trade for Brandon Cooks last year from Houston. He's a guy that still could be in play. Looks like Denver is putting all their receivers on the market. And there's a chance that, I guess they could potentially trade for one of those. But the 2 names that keep popping up, again, Odell Beckham, DeAndre Hopkins. Odell Beckham is a guy that Jerry continues to fawn over and still covet. Everybody else in the organization, maybe not as high as Jerry is on him, but if Jerry wants something, he either gets it. Certainly, it's going to be looks like they're going to have to battle other teams for him. And if the money gets too high, the Cowboys are going to be out. And DeAndre Hopkins is a guy that, he's working out in Dallas, been working out with Des Bryant. He's let people know he would love to play in Dallas and may even play for less money in Dallas. Of course, you have to trade, make a trade with the Arizona Cardinals to get him. Here's a guy who's not as fast. They're looking for a guy that can take the top off the defense, but he's still a top quality receiver. Would be an upgrade, would be a nice fit opposite CeeDee Lamb.
So, Clarence, if you had to guess, well, let's go back. We talked a lot about Odell Beckham on Cowboys Overtime and sort of the pros and cons of potentially signing him. Obviously, he's a hell of a player. And if you watch the Super Bowl, and really, if you watch his performances with the Rams after he was traded by Cleveland in 2022, late in the season, he was really good. And he was killing the Bengals in that Super Bowl until he suffered the torn ACL. His departure totally changed that game. So let's just assume he's healthy, and he's back to 100%. Who's a better complement opposite CeeDee Lamb, Odell Beckham or DeAndre Hopkins?
Wow, that's a tough one because both are, to me, top quality receivers and certainly huge upgrades in what the Cowboys were playing with last year.
No.
Beckham has a chance to be, Beckham is special if he's healthy. You know, how long he's going to stay healthy. He's had 2 ACL injuries. DeAndre Hopkins is a little older. You know, he's more of a, he doesn't, again, not a guy that's fleet of foot, but he certainly makes the tough catches. The Cowboys certainly need a guy that's going to make contested catches. That's a tough one. The difference is that Odell Beckham brings that Kardashian element to the locker room and to the city. DeAndre Hopkins doesn't.
That never really scared the owner of the Dallas Cowboys.
No, man, not scared. Maybe scared the coach, maybe scared the family, all that other stuff. But yeah, he hangs out with the Kardashians, and and Kris Jenner's new boyfriend, was with him when they came to the Mavericks game in the fall. So all that whole entourage is going to be with him. So
DeAndre,
the
thing about DeAndre Hopkins that concerns me, when Houston traded him, I think that all of Houston wanted to kill then Texans coach Bill O'Brien for basically being the one to push that trade through. Now he goes to Arizona, and maybe that's not working out. There's something about him, both of these guys, that have scared other teams away. No different than Amari Cooper. You mentioned it. DeAndre's a little bit older than Odell Beckham. And if Odell is healthy, I would probably say Odell. The one thing DeAndre Hopkins gives you that he can go up, man, he can climb the ladder. Now, he's not DK Metcalf or any of those guys, but it seems to me that if you had to go catch the ball in space and fight for it, DeAndre is probably better suited to do it. Whereas if Odell's right, as a route runner and as a pass catcher, he's a better player. If it comes down to one or the other, and it doesn't sound to me like you're really confident it's going to be either one, but if it was coming down to one or the other, which one do you think the Cowboys, not just Theory, but the Cowboys would want to do?
I think it'd be Hopkins. I think he still has something left in the tank. It would be a guy like Hopkins. But irregardless of whether they get Hopkins or they get Odell Beckham, they still need to add speed to the passing game, and that's going to be something they're going to still look for in the draft. They're going to, if the Cowboys will draft a receiver for sure, and they also want to sign one in free agency.
Oh, don't worry, they got Jalen Tolbert. All right, we're going to drift away from football here on this episode of Cowboys Overtime to talk about probably my most favorite time of the sports calendar, and that is the first 4 days of the NCAA basketball tournament. I'm talking about Thursday. I'm not talking about the play-in games. I'm talking about Thursday through Sunday when it's the first two rounds, round of 64, then the round of 32. I absolutely love it, especially Thursday and Friday when there's a million games and hopefully upsets. But we are here. March Madness is here. We got a lot of teams from Texas who've made it. So crazy to me. It wasn't that long ago that no teams from Texas got in the NCAA tournament. Now, this year, TCU, Texas, Baylor, Texas A&M, Texas Southern, and Texas A&M Corpus Christi are all in the NCAA men's basketball tournament. Clarence, at least within the state, the big subject, the big game to watch, well, forget the game. We were going to talk about the A&M, potentially the round of 32 game between the Texas A&M Aggies and the Texas Longhorns. That could happen. And the A&M fans are livid over it. But in fairness, most of the A&M fans are upset about something in their life on a given day. So the fact that they're complaining about potentially playing Texas in the second round isn't a big surprise. However, the great subject to follow is what the University of Texas is going to do with an interim coach that just won the Big 12 Conference Tournament Championship, has been named the National Coach of the Year, and he's an interim coach in Rodney Terry. I wrote it about a month ago. No coach in this country did a better job given the set of circumstances that he was handed back in December when then head coach Chris Beard was essentially fired for domestic violence allegations by his live-in fiance. So Chris Beard gets fired. Rodney Terry walks in, does a great job, and in sort of a Steve Fisher-like bolt of lightning, has the horns rolling. But he's not the head coach yet on a permanent basis. A couple of weeks ago, I asked somebody at UT, Clarence, somebody you and I both know, what's it going to take for him to get the head coaching job? And this was before they went on a run, beat Kansas twice in a week and won the conference tournament title. He said, probably going to have to get to the Sweet 16. Texas is a 2 seed. They're good. They're rolling. Do you think Texas will give? That's 2 questions. Do you think Texas should give Rodney Terry the head coaching job on a permanent basis?
I think they should. I understand, and I've been having these discussions with my friends, and there's a lot of emotional, a lot of sentiment for Rodney for what he's done, how he's taken his team. And yes, this is Chris Beard's team. He, recruited these players. They came there for him. Rodney Terry's track record at other jobs is not so great as a head coach. He's never built his own program, never recruited his own guys, although he did help Chris Beard recruit these guys to this program. But what he's done to keep this team afloat, to keep this season, you can say these are Chris Beard's guys ready-made team, but this season could have gone off the rails.
No,
what happened with Chris Beard, and for him to keep them and not just keep them going, but have them compete, fight, thrive, win the Big 12 conference tourney. Finished right now top 5 in the country, the number 2 seed going into the tournament with a really good chance, not just to get to the Sweet 16, but a lot of pundits favor them to get to the Final Four.
They could.
There's a chance he can get to the Final Four. I just think that they should give him a job. And I know that, I've, again, had these conversations. You don't make a 10-year decision or a 5-year decision on a 1-year emotion, and there's a lot of sentiment. Yes, he's best for this team right now. Is he best for the Longhorns in 5 years?
Well, I made the Steve Fisher analogy. And a number of years ago, Steve Fisher was the assistant coach at the University of Michigan when Bill Frieder was fired, and Steve Fisher inherited the team, and he won the national championship. And then he went on to put together maybe the most heralded freshman class ever, called the Fab Five, a team that went to consecutive national title games with Juwan Howard, Jalen Rose, Ray Jackson, Jimmy King, and Chris Webber. Now, they didn't win the championship, and ultimately, because of NCAA violations, they were stripped of those appearances. And Steve Fisher lost his job. But Steve then went to San Diego State and had a great run with the Aztecs, where he coached, amongst the others, Kawhi Leonard. So Steve was that hire worked. This one, all the reasons that you just said, you don't want to make a 10-year decision based off a 3-month emotional run. And this is what he's done has been great. Here's, for people watching and listening, so before Rodney Terry was named the interim head coach at Texas, he coached 9 seasons in major college basketball. He coached at Fresno State for 6 seasons. We had a .538 winning percentage, 5 winning seasons overall, and 1 NCAA tournament appearance. Then he goes to UTEP, where he spends 3 seasons, and he had a .435 winning percentage. And here's Texas's problem. There's no way a coach with that track record, even though Rodney's got longtime Texas ties, there's University of Texas ties. There's no way a coach with that track record at mid-major schools that have proven to be successful in the past is named the head coach at a Power 5 job, a job like UT. I think I have gone back and forth on this 1,000 times. You asked me 5 minutes ago, I would say they're not going to do it. They're not going to name him the head coach. You ask me from 5 minutes from now, I'll say they're going to do it. And after looking at this, I don't know how they can do it. But at the same time, Clarence, I don't know how they can't do it.
Right. You're right. And I've looked at that too. And I would say this, because I just, Jim Boeheim just left, okay, in Syracuse, longtime coach, and they promoted his assistant.
Right away. Didn't even wait.
Promoted assistant right away.
Yep.
When
Hubert Davis in North Carolina.
Hubert Davis, North Carolina, they promoted him without a track record.
Nothing.
You tell me if Hubert Davis goes to UNC Asheville or Iona, he has that.
Yep.
We don't know what he does. Same thing at Duke.
John Shire.
They promoted a guy who was a longtime assistant. So if Terry had been on that staff for 10 years under Beard, and Beard retired, and it would be okay to promote him.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the problem. You wouldn't have any of this track record to use against him.
Again, and sometimes it's the situation. Sometimes it's the school. It's where you are. Whatever. I just think that it's a tough job that our good friend AD at Texas is going to have a decision he's going to have to make. But I think in this situation, because I'm looking at some of the recruits, I know he was a big part of some of the recruits that made one of the McDonald's All-American from Duncanville is staying with Texas because of Rodney Terry.
That's big.
And so if he can get those guys to stay and continue to build on this momentum, then he may have something. Because if you watch the way he's coached his team, the way this team has played down the stretch, they don't quit. They don't get blown out. They are tough. He's made good coaching decisions. I can only go by what I've seen, the coaching and how this team has responded to him. If he can continue to do that and get those same type of guys, again, it's important that the recruits are staying with him.
No doubt about it.
Texas. That's a big part of this for me.
Should know in about 3 weeks. The NCAA tournament starts on Tuesday night with the play-on games. TCU plays Friday night. Texas is the 2 seed. Texas is the highest seed of any of the teams in the state of Texas. Clarence, I don't know if you filled out your bracket yet.
Not the highest. Houston is 1.
Oh, Houston's 1. I totally forgot about that. I'm sorry. That's terrible. Houston's the top-ranked team in the country.
And it's crazy they're in the same bracket, so we don't get a chance to get 2 Texas teams. At least we can't get all Texas Final Four because I know TCU is in another bracket.
No, thank you for that catch. I totally missed that. I can't believe I missed it. That's terrible. Do you have a national championship winner for me?
Not yet. I don't know how you pick one. I just don't with this season, the way Houston has played and the way Kansas has played, and you see UCLA and you see in Alabama and that's not even talk. That's a whole nother conversation.
That's a show.
What's going on in Alabama and Purdue? I'm scared of that big 7-foot dude at Purdue, but they have young guards. I think it's as wide open as it's ever been.
I had Purdue playing UCLA, which means Purdue will lose in the first round and UCLA will lose in the second round. Okay, we've gone way too long. Clarence, has been a lot of fun. Hook 'em to you. Rock Chalk Jayhawk, go Frogs. Who else we got? Gig 'em. Guns Up didn't make it. They
Baylor. Sick 'em Bears.
Go Houston High. Everybody else. All right, for all of your Cowboys coverage needs, don't bother worrying about free agents because the Cowboys aren't going to sign any of them.
Texas Southern.
Texas A&M, Corpus Christi. Here we go. That's it. And we got everybody else. Okay. Clarence, has been fun. We'll see you next week on Cowboys Overtime. I'm Mac Engel.